when Khloe stood up at her sweet 16 and said, "Grandma makes everyone uncomfortable, and she should go," I didn't flinch. I picked up my purse, gave a polite smile, and walked out without a word. She had no idea I'd just dropped 12 grand on that very party. But let me tell you what she didn't see. On the ride home, I called my financial advisor and made some changes, ones that would redefine the word uncomfortable for my granddaughter. My name is Ruth Williams. I'm 74 and live in Portland, Oregon. And for the last 6 years, I've been quietly building something my family never saw coming. They thought I was stretching my tiny pension to help them out. What they didn't know was that I was the financial engine powering their entire lifestyle. When my husband Harold passed away 7 years ago, he left behind some life insurance and a pension rollover. Back then, I was just a grieving widow trying to make ends meet. But grief didn't keep me idle. I started reading, researching, and teaching myself about investing. It began small, just a retired teacher putting away a little here and there. But those little steps turned into something powerful. My daughter and granddaughter thought I was simply generous. They never suspected I was a woman with serious financial strength, choosing to share what I'd earned. That night in the car, parked just outside the country club, I sat in silence while their laughter carried on behind me. That was the moment it hit me. Khloe didn't see me as the woman who had quietly supported every one of her dreams. She saw me as a burden. What happened in the month that followed taught both Khloe and her mother what it means to respect someone, and what happens when the person footing the bill finally says enough. Sometimes, loving someone means stepping away. Sometimes, kindness looks like letting them experience life without your safety net. Let me show you how a retired teacher became the invisible backbone of an entitled family, and how I used that power the moment they revealed how little they thought of me. 7 years ago, Harold died suddenly of a heart attack. We'd been married 42 years. He always handled our finances. At 67, I found myself alone in our small apartment, staring at $180,000 in life insurance and another $60,000 in his pension rollover. I had no idea how to make that last for the rest of my life. The first year, I barely functioned. I lived off our small savings, too numb to even think about the future. That money just sat in a checking account, earning next to nothing. Eventually, something inside me shifted. Maybe it was my teacher instincts. Or maybe Harold's voice in my head reminding me I was always good with numbers. I started checking books out of the library. I watched YouTube videos about investing late at night when I couldn't sleep. I even enrolled in an online course through the community college to learn stock market basics. 6 years ago, I took my first real step. I was terrified of losing Harold's money, but more afraid of outliving it. So I invested $50,000 in index funds and another $30,000 in dividend stocks just to see what would happen. Then the phone rang. It was Lisa, my daughter, crying. She'd been divorced for 3 years, working in marketing, barely making ends meet. Khloe had just been accepted into Riverside Academy, a prestigious private school. The tuition, $25,000 a year. "Mom, I don't know what to do," she sobbed. "Khloe's so excited, but I can't afford it. I feel like I'm failing her." I glanced at my account. In just 1 year, it had grown to almost $300,000. I'd made $45,000 in gains. I told Lisa not to worry, I'd cover the tuition. She was shocked. "Mom, I can't let you use your inheritance like that. Dad worked too hard for it. But what Lisa didn't understand was that the money wasn't disappearing. It was multiplying faster than I'd ever dreamed. While she thought I was giving from scarcity, I was giving from abundance. It started small, $200 here for car insurance, $300 for Khloe's clothes, $400 a month for tutoring when math got tough. Lisa would always say, "Mom, you're stretching your budget so much for us. I feel terrible." If only she knew. By year 3, I had $380,000. By year 6, I was sitting on $650,000. My portfolio was earning about $50,000 a year, more than enough to cover the $31.00 I was quietly spending on their lives. Meanwhile, I lived in my tiny apartment, drove my 2015 Honda, and shopped at thrift stores. Not because I had to, because I wanted every dollar working for our future. Lisa would sometimes catch me checking my investment app. She'd chuckle and say, "Mom, you and your little stock hobby." Little did she know her retired teacher mom had become a serious investor. 4 years ago, when Khloe turned 12, I opened a college savings plan for her. I didn't tell them. I just started putting in $1,000 a month. It grew to $58,000. They still have no idea it exists. Over the past 3 years, I've paid Khloe's tuition, her car payments, and all the extras that come with fitting in at a top-tier school. Class trips, emergencies, unexpected bills, I covered them all. Last year, when she wanted to go to Europe with her class, it cost $3,500. I transferred the money that day. Lisa always said, "Mom, you're such a generous grandmother. I don't know how you do it on your pension." The truth, I wasn't living on my pension. I was living on investment returns, but I let them believe otherwise because I wanted them to be grateful. Last month, when Khloe started planning her Sweet 16, she came to me with stars in her eyes. Country club venue, professional catering, designer decor, the whole production. I didn't say no. I moved $8.00 from my portfolio and saved another $4,000 from my monthly budget over 6 months. $12,000, more than some people spend on a car. But I wanted her to have her dream. That Saturday morning, I arrived early to oversee everything: pink and gold accents, elegant centerpieces, a photo booth with a custom backdrop. I created the kind of party that would make her the envy of her elite friends. What I forgot was that no amount of money could buy her gratitude. The shift in Khloe didn't happen all at once. It started shortly after she began attending Riverside. She was suddenly surrounded by kids with last names on law firm signs, tech firms, and hospital wings. Kids who lived in homes with pools and flew to Paris for spring break. At first, it was just little comments. "Grandma, why don't you wear nicer clothes?" "My friend's grandma wears Chanel." Or, "Why do you drive such an old car?" "Madison's grandmother has a BMW." I laughed it off. I could have dressed the part if I wanted to. But I chose to put my money to work, not wear it. Khloe didn't see the difference. And then came the school events, parent nights, ceremonies. I'd show up in my department store dress and flats while other grandparents walked in draped in luxury. Khloe would glance sideways at me, her smile a little too forced. She started pulling away, stopped asking me to drive her, stopped inviting me to things. And when I showed up anyway, the hugs were stiff and brief. Then came the bake sale. I made my famous chocolate chip cookies, the same ones I used to pack in Lisa's lunchbox. I proudly walked them over to the table. One of Khloe's friends asked, "Who's that lady?" Khloe shrugged and said, "Just some volunteer." I stood there holding my tray, invisible. I told myself it was just a phase, that she'd grow out of it, that the Sweet 16 party would bring us back together. I threw myself into planning every detail. She wanted it perfect, and I wanted her to feel proud. I thought, maybe this will be the moment she sees me again. I saved, budgeted, and carefully arranged everything: venue, food, lighting, DJ, decor. Lisa said, "Mom, this is too much." I told her I wanted to do it. I pictured Khloe hugging me, introducing me to her friends, telling them I was the reason her party was magical. I showed up 2 hours early that day to check on every detail. The room looked like something out of a magazine. White roses with gold accents, pink lighting, photo booth. 3-tier cake with sugar flowers. Everything was perfect. I went home to get ready, choosing my best navy dress, simple pearls Harold gave me on our 20th anniversary. I thought I looked classy. I parked my Honda between 2 luxury SUVs. Inside, Khloe looked stunning in her $400 pink silk dress, paid for, of course, by me. Her makeup, done by a professional, also paid for by me. I walked up to her, smiling. "Happy birthday, sweetheart. Everything looks beautiful." She gave me the coldest, quickest hug I've ever received. "Thanks, Grandma," she said, turning back to her friends. That should have been my clue. I tried to mingle, but the other grandparents. Designer everything, chit-chat about beach houses and portfolios. I introduced myself to one of Khloe's friends. "You must be Madison." The girl looked at me like I was the help, said hi with a tight smile, then turned away. Trevor whispered something to Sophia. I caught the words "old lady" and felt the heat rise in my cheeks. I brushed it off. This was Khloe's day. I kept helping, coordinating with staff, adjusting the playlist. But the looks, the way they shifted away when I walked up, the whispers. I overheard one girl say, "Why is that old lady acting like she works here?" My stomach dropped. Still, I stayed calm until it happened. I walked up to Khloe and her friends, trying one last time. "Are you girls having fun? Anything you need?" Madison rolled her eyes. "We're fine." Then Khloe looked at me like I'd spilled something down my front, like I was ruining everything, and then she said it. "Grandma, you're making everyone uncomfortable. You're embarrassing. You should just leave." Silence. The music faded. All eyes were on me. Khloe didn't flinch. She didn't stammer. She meant it. This child I'd supported in every possible way had just kicked me out of her own birthday. The one I paid for. I felt like I'd been slapped. I looked around the room. I'd built every flower, every plate, every light, and I took a breath. "Of course, sweetheart," I said softly. "I hope you have a wonderful night." And I walked out. Past the decorations, past the cake, past the guests who now avoided my gaze. Lisa didn't even know it all happened while she was chatting inside. I reached my car and sat in silence as the music picked back up behind me. No one came after me. No one noticed I was gone. That's when it all came into focus. I hadn't just paid for a party. I'd spent 6 years buying Khloe's comfort, her opportunities, her life, but I'd never asked her to give anything back, not even respect. And now I knew the price, but she was about to learn something too. Because what she didn't know was that Grandma still held the checkbook, and I was done writing blank checks to people who couldn't see my worth. The drive home felt endless. Khloe's words kept echoing in my head. "You're making everyone uncomfortable. You're embarrassing." She'd said it so casually, like she was asking me to move my chair, and the way her friends nodded along like I didn't belong there. Like I was some outsider crashing their little country club fantasy. When I pulled into the lot of my apartment complex, I didn't get out right away. I just sat there, staring at the dashboard, hands frozen on the steering wheel. My chest was tight with hurt, but underneath that, something else was building. Anger, not the loud, shouting kind. The deep, quiet kind that grows from years of being taken for granted. I walked into my apartment, still in my navy dress, and poured myself a glass of wine. A good bottle I'd been saving, and then I sat down at the kitchen table and opened my binder, the one with all the financial records. I needed to see it all laid out in black and white, every dollar I'd spent in silence, every sacrifice they thought I was making from a modest pension. The numbers were bigger than even I remembered. 3 years of tuition at Riverside, $25,000 a year, $75,000 total. 18 months of car payments at $250 a month, $4,500. Designer clothes, electronics, social outings conservatively $3,000 a year, $9,000 more, the emergency expenses, roof leak, car repair, a visit, about $8,000 altogether. The Sweet 16 party, $12,000. And the college fund I'd been building quietly for years. $48,000 contributed, now worth $58,000 with growth. That brought the total to well over $150,000. And that's not even counting the emotional debt they racked up by treating me like a ghost. I sat there, staring at the sum, $150,000, and all it got me was a whispered insult and a one-way trip out the door. The next morning, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Clarity, not sadness. Not regret, clarity. I made coffee. And then I called James, my financial advisor. He picked up on the first ring. "Ruth, everything okay?" "No, James, but it will be." "Can I come in this morning?" "Of course. I'll clear my schedule." At 10 a.m., I was in his office with my binder. James had helped manage my account for 4 years. He'd watched it grow from a few $100,000 to over $650,000. He always told me I had a natural instinct. But that day, he could tell something was different. "You look serious," he said, offering me a seat. I told him everything, about the party, about Khloe's words, about how my support had turned into expectation, about how I was tired of being treated like a bank with a pulse. He listened carefully, didn't interrupt once. When I finished, he leaned back and said, "Ruth, what are you thinking of doing?" "I want it all stopped," I said. "Every single pipeline of money to Lisa and Khloe. Cut off." He blinked. "That single quote says ... significant." I nodded ... "Let's walk through what that would mean," he said, opening my portfolio. We reviewed every auto transfer, every co-signed loan, every link between my account and their lives. "First," I said, "stop the $1.00 monthly deposit into Khloe's 529 college fund." James clicked a few buttons. "Done. That frees up $12,000 annually." "Second, remove me from the car loan. Lisa can handle the payments from now on." She'd be notified within 48 hours, James confirmed. Third, I said, I'm not paying for next quarter's tuition at Riverside. James hesitated. That's over $6,000 due in 3 weeks. I know, are you sure? I thought of Khloe's face, how relieved she looked when I walked away from her party. Very sure. And the emergency account? He asked. Shut it down. And any credit cards where I'm the guarantor, take my name off. Let their limits reflect their income, not mine. James worked silently for a few more minutes. When he finished, he looked at me seriously. Ruth, these changes will have an immediate impact. Are you ready for that? I'm more than ready, I said. For 6 years, I let them believe I was making sacrifices. They never realized I was making choices. That drive home, it felt like freedom. For the first time since Harold passed, I was making financial decisions based on self-respect, not obligation. As I pulled into my parking space, my phone buzzed. It was Lisa. Mom, thank you again for Khloe's party. I know you sacrificed so much. There it was again, sacrifice. She still had no idea. I replied, You're welcome, dear. I hope Khloe learned something from the experience. Because she was about to, and so was Lisa. The days of funding their fantasy life were over, and they were about to find out exactly what that life had been costing them, who had really been paying. The first week, everything was quiet. James had initiated all the changes, but Lisa and Khloe hadn't noticed yet. Khloe even texted me twice that week. Grandma, can you send me $150? There's this pair of shoes all my friends have. A few days later, can I get $200 for concert tickets? Madison's parents already got theirs. For the first time in years, I replied, You'll need to ask your mother about that, sweetheart. No explanation, no apology, just a boundary. I could almost feel the confusion radiating from her phone. Grandma always said yes. Not anymore. The second week, the cracks started forming. Tuesday morning, my phone rang. Lisa. Mom, I just got a strange call from the bank. They said I need to start making Khloe's car payments. I thought you were taking care of that. I was, I said, calm and even. But I've decided it's time for you to handle Khloe's expenses directly. There was a pause on the line. What? I can't afford an extra $250 a month right now. I thought we had an agreement. We did. But agreements can change. Another long silence. Is this about something? Did I do something wrong? I nearly laughed. She had no idea what her daughter had said to me at that party. She'd been inside sipping wine, completely unaware her mother was being humiliated in front of a room full of strangers. It's not about one moment, Lisa, I said. It's about me deciding to make different choices with my money. But you know how tight things are. I was counting on that help. There it was, counting on it. Not grateful for it, not appreciative. Just expecting it. I know it's an adjustment. But I'm sure you'll figure it out. By Friday of that week, the house of cards collapsed. Lisa called again, this time frantic. Mom, the school called. Khloe's next tuition payment, $6,250, was declined. They said it was supposed to come from your account. It was, but not anymore. What do you mean? She's in the middle of her junior year. She can keep going to school, Lisa, just not at Riverside. Lisa's voice dropped. Mom, we can't afford another school right now. You know that. We've talked about this. Yes, We have, but we've never talked about whether Khloe appreciates what she's been given, or whether she respects the woman who made it all possible. There was a long, heavy pause. Did something happen at the party? She asked quietly. You left early. I've been meaning to ask. Yes, I said. Something did happen. Your daughter told me I was embarrassing and asked me to leave. What? She said I made everyone uncomfortable. Oh my God, in front of her friends. At a party I paid $12,000 to create. I didn't know. I swear I didn't. I was inside. I know, and I appreciate your apology, but I've already made my decision. That weekend, Lisa called me 6 times. Each call more frantic than the last. Saturday. Mom, I've been researching public high schools. Starting mid-semester will ruin her transcript. Sunday. Khloe's been crying all day. She says everyone will think something's wrong with us. Monday morning, I had to call in sick to meet with the school. They're giving us until 5 p.m. to pay, or she's out. I felt for Lisa. I really did. She hadn't known. But I didn't feel sorry enough to undo anything. Tuesday afternoon, I got a call from Khloe. Her number lit up on my phone for the first time in weeks. She was crying. Grandma, please. Mom says you're not paying for school anymore. You can't do this to me. I'm not doing anything to you, sweetheart. I'm just letting your family live within their own means. But I can't go to public school. You don't understand what that will do to my reputation. Oh, I understand perfectly. That's the point. I didn't mean what I said that night. No, she was quiet for a beat. I just ... My friends were looking at you funny, and I got embarrassed. You were embarrassed of your grandmother. Silence. The grandmother who paid $75.00 for your education, bought your clothes, your car, and saved $58,000 for your college. More silence. $58,000, she whispered. Yes, I've been putting $1,000 a month away since you were 12. Did you think your mother could afford Riverside on a marketing salary? Her voice cracked. I can fix it. I can apologize. No, Khloe, this isn't about fixing a moment. This is about learning a lesson. Please, Grandma. I didn't know. That's right. And that's the problem. The third week, the credit card trouble began. Lisa had been using accounts I'd co-signed for, thinking the generous limits were tied to her own salary. But once James removed my name, those limits dropped like a stone. Declined at the grocery store, declined at the gas station. Declined trying to pay for Khloe's senior portraits, pictures that had been booked and prepaid months in advance. Lisa called in tears. Mom, I can't even buy groceries. My cards just keep getting declined. They're not broken, Lisa, I said. They've just been adjusted to reflect your actual income. Not mine. What do you mean, your income? You're retired. That's when I realized how little she really understood. Lisa, I think it's time you knew something. I explained it all, how I hadn't just stashed Harold's life insurance in a savings account, how I'd taught myself to invest, and how that $240,000 had become $650,000. How I'd been earning about $50,000 a year in returns quietly, consistently. How I'd used that income to support their lifestyle. Not my pension, not a savings account. A portfolio I built from scratch at age 68. Dead silence. Then, softly, she said, You have that much money, yes, and for 6 years. I used it for you and Khloe. But you live so simply. You drive that old car because I chose to, so that you could live above your means while I lived below mine. Another pause. I didn't know. I know you didn't. The fourth week, Khloe started at Lincoln Public High. It's a good school, but it's not Riverside. No prestige, no uniform, no curated image to hide behind. Lisa called again, trying to sound composed. Mom, Khloe's miserable. None of her old friends will talk to her. She feels like she's been socially exiled. That's unfortunate. But she's also learning. Learning what? What it looks like when you build your world on someone else's foundation and forget to say thank you. Meanwhile, I was learning something too. What it felt like to finally spend my money on me. I bought a new wardrobe. Nothing flashy, just quality clothes that fit well and made me feel put together. I traded in my 2015 Honda for a shiny 2022 model. I moved into a new apartment with a mountain view and natural light that poured into my kitchen. And for the first time in years, I was living like a woman with $650,000 in investments, not like a woman pinching every penny from a pension. I joined a local investing club for retirees. Suddenly, I had a room full of people who respected my financial knowledge, people who saw me as smart and capable, not outdated, not invisible. 6 weeks after the party, Lisa and Khloe came to visit. They stepped into my new apartment and looked around, taking it all in: the modern furniture, the peaceful neighborhood, the evidence that I wasn't scraping by anymore. Lisa cleared her throat. Mom, I've talked to Khloe. She understands now. What she said was cruel. Khloe, standing beside her in a Target sweatshirt, looked smaller somehow. I'm sorry, Grandma, she said. I really am. I was trying to impress people who don't even talk to me anymore. I looked at her, really looked at her. She'd lost weight. The designer clothes were gone. Her eyes looked tired, but genuine. Thank you for saying that, I said. But sorry doesn't undo the harm. You said what you said in front of the whole room. I know. Can we start over? She asked softly. We can have a relationship, sweetheart. But it's going to look very different now. Lisa jumped in. What about the college fund? The one you mentioned. It still exists, I said. It's at $58,000 right now. But Khloe will need to earn access to it. Lisa's face fell. How? By showing me, consistently, that she values me for who I am, not just what I provide. That she understands respect. That she sees me as her grandmother, not her bank. Khloe nodded. I'll try. That's all I'm asking. 3 months later, Khloe got her first job, part-time at a local coffee shop. She used her paycheck to help Lisa with the car payment and cover some of her own expenses. It was the first time she'd ever had to earn what she wanted, and honestly, it suited her. She started texting me again, but the tone had changed. No more can you send money. Now it was, I had a long shift today. My manager said I'm picking things up fast. Or, I used my tips to buy groceries with Mom. I feel kind of proud. Last month, on my birthday, she showed up with flowers. Not expensive ones. Just a small bouquet from the corner market. But she bought them with her own money. She handed them to me with a shy smile. I didn't want to ask you for money to buy your gift, she said. I wanted to do it myself. Those flowers meant more to me than all the designer dresses and high-end school fees I'd ever paid for, because they came from understanding, from effort, from respect. Lisa's changed too. She asks about my investments now, not to borrow, but to learn. She even opened her own brokerage account and started setting aside a little from each paycheck. Mom, I never realized how financially smart you were, she said one afternoon. I always thought Dad handled all that. I learned, I told her, and you can too. It's never too late. Do I regret cutting them off? Not for 1 second. Because what I gained in return was something no money could buy. I got my dignity back. I got a relationship with my granddaughter that isn't transactional, and I got to rediscover the satisfaction of spending my money on my own dreams. The college fund, it's still there, and I imagine Khloe will get access to it one day. Once she shows that she truly values who I am, not just what I can pay for. But even if she doesn't, I'm okay, because the real lesson has already been learned. Money can buy a lifestyle, it can buy parties, clothes, prestige. But it can't buy love, it can't buy respect. Those things have to be earned and freely given. And sometimes, the kindest thing you can do for people you love is to stop shielding them from the consequences of their own entitlement. Let them learn, let them grow, let them see what it really costs to live the way they do. If you're someone who's been taken for granted by the very people you've poured your life into, hear me when I say this. You have more power than you think, and it's never too late to use it. Dignity isn't something you buy, it's something you claim. And you should never have to pay anyone to give it to you.